Your Excellency, the Deputy President, and all the other colleagues present, clergy, and all officers of government, I'll say a few things and then allow my colleagues also to weigh in so that we can move towards the plenary where our leaders who have not spoken and the other participants can also give us their input on this very important matter. Your Excellency, the problem of drugs, substance abuse is a national security matter. I do know there are some public health concerns, social concerns, economic concerns on the impacts of this problem to our country. But the entry point for this discussion should be our national security and the survival of the country in the years to come. And therefore, for us in the Interior Ministry, we consider those who are selling drugs, transporting drugs, those who are manufacturing illicit alcohol, as well as public officials who are enabling the purveyors of drugs and illicit alcohol to thrive. We consider the category of everybody that I've mentioned in that chain as enemies of Kenya. We consider them as participants in organized crime, and therefore we have placed them on the same category where we have placed terrorists, extremists, and bandits. There is no difference. What terrorists are doing to our country, the harm that other organized criminals are doing to our country, including bandits, is the same harm that those who are manufacturing, transporting, selling, distributing, and encouraging drugs and alcohol are doing to our country. So, what are we doing? First, we'll go hard on them. Even as we wait for the other interventions that are critically important for the sustainability of this war, we'll go hard the same way we've gone hard on terrorism and on violent extremism. Very hard. I see no reason, even as we look at our legislation, why we should not borrow the current legislation on the fight against terror to fight drugs and the organized crime that is around drugs. I see no reason whatsoever. Your Excellency, the Director of Public Prosecutions did highlight here things which are already in our law, which we should be implementing. And again, I see no reason why we are not implementing. The destruction of drugs before they can be interfered with or reused, as has been the case in Kirinyaga recently. I see no reason why anything that is a motor vehicle which has been used to transport drugs should not be forfeited. I see no reason why a building which has been used to store narcotics and illicit alcohol should not be confiscated, forfeited to the state. Therefore, asset recovery, forfeiture, and harsh punishments, even if it includes enhancing the already existing law, will go a long way in the hard solutions to this problem. Excellency, we have a law enforcement problem in the country, and let us face it, now that we have said today is the day of speaking the truth. Excellency, we have officers from various agencies who are dealing with law enforcement, who are doing a commendable job across the country. I've been able to visit many parts of Kenya. I can attest to you without fear of contradiction. We have police officers, we have ngao officers, we have all manner of officers, including public prosecutors, who are doing a great job for this country, and they need to be applauded. But we also have a group of officers, Your Excellency, and public officials who have decided to benefit from the death of the nation. And therefore, they are presiding over a systematic and gradual death of this and current generation. And these are police officers, for example, ngao officers, public prosecution officials who are taking bribes from drug barons and those who are transporting drugs so that the law doesn't catch up with them. So we have a problem. And this is the solution. The solution is that for us in national security, we cannot afford a day extra in talking about what we need to do when we know what we need to do. For example, there are all these tensions between agencies and the two levels of government, including national government and county governments. We have no quarrel with the departmental jurisdictions of agencies or even the functional mandates of county governments vis-a-vis national government. But we want to remind the country that national security is not a devolved function. And therefore, anything that threatens national security, we will go out of our way to prevent further harm, and we will not wait for the discussions around whether this falls under this level of government or this other level of government. I was in Kirinyaga, Your Excellency, a day before you went there for the mass burial of 17 Kenyans who died from one village because poison was sold to them. And this poison had actually been, it was an exhibit which was supposed to be used in court. Police officers in the local police station sold that exhibit to the person who used that exhibit to kill 17 people. I want to thank the Inspector General of Police and the service commanders, because every time the government has requested the National Police Service to make decisions on rowdy and patriotic and criminal officers, the Inspector General of Police and the service commanders have cooperated fully, and they have not come back to us flagging the independence that institutions like flagging around when they want to undermine the national interest. I'm grateful, IG Kome, because those officers who sold those exhibits were sacked on the same day and they were charged with murder. They are in court. They are going to face the crime, or they are going to face charges of the offense of murder. And you see, that example of 17 people from one village lying in caskets on the same day. What is the difference between that and what terrorists do? In some parts of our country, it's the same thing, isn't it? And therefore, for us, this discussion is not even about departmental and agency tough wars. It is beyond county and national government discussions around mandates. And so we will not wait to ask who has licensed what. Once we discover certain outlets, buildings, facilities are threatening the survival of the nation, we shut them up, we shut them down. We will be able to discuss these other things about licensing later on. Because we cannot allow a murderer to continue murdering Kenyans because they are licensed by whatever agency or whatever level of government. We are going to change the country's transfer policy. Any official in the law enforcement and public service space who, through action or inaction, contributes to the death of Kenyans, through negligence, they allow dangerous criminals, organized criminals, including drug barons, to have their way to access the public. That officer will not be transferred, as you've said, Your Excellency, elsewhere, because every inch of our territory requires efficient services and the protection of its national security organs. So you mess up in your area of jurisdiction, we will see what to do with you. And I like what the Inspector General of Police said. You know, we are a country with so many procedures about very many things. How to sack somebody, how to do what to somebody. And there are officers who are misusing some of these procedures. And some agencies of government, including courts, are even supporting. We had a case in Naivasha where somebody who had committed a serious dereliction of duty successfully resisted a transfer using a court order. So what we are going to do, we will not, we will take action on day one. Immediately we discover that what you are doing or what you are about to do is a threat to national security. We will remove you from service through whatever methods. We will remove you from office, and then you can take us to court later, and we are willing to do court and other things and deal with court orders once the country is safe. And I know the officers here looking at me and saying, we have seen very many ministers, we have seen very many administrations, that's how they talk, we are the ones who know this space. I want to assure you, brothers and sisters who are listening to me, and you are working under the Ministry of Interior, within our national security formations. It may take us a little while to catch up with you. But when, because it is when, not if, we catch up with you, you'll be a living example of what dangerous criminals should be treated in a democratic and modern country. Why are we saying this? If you're a police commander, you take a bribe from someone who is transporting illegal ethanol or methanol or some other drug that is being used to mix with the heroin and make these hard drugs even more dangerous. If you are a police commander or you are a criminal investigations officer in the county, in the region, and this happens under your watch, or you receive money to look the other way. Why should we keep you in that role even for an hour? And I want to assure you, in the name of God and in the name of the Constitution of our country, we will get hold of you. We will neutralize those efforts before you destroy the country. We will sack you. Let me put it that way. We will sack you by whatever method possible. And we don't fear court. We don't fear you, I don't know, using which other route. We will not even return you to service. Because a threat to national security is a threat to the nation. So, you may have heard this before, but you didn't hear it from me before. Your Excellency, the soft remedies are important as the hard remedies. Because as we suppress the supply, we must also suppress the demand. We totally support rehabilitation programs. You've heard already we have a rehabilitation center here in Miritini. We've put in money, even in this financial year, to expand that rehabilitation center. Our target, in partnership with other partners, including county governments, is that every county in the Republic of Kenya should have a publicly funded rehabilitation center. Because the private rehabilitation centers are very costly and many of our people cannot afford. We'll also be very hard with the victims of this crime. I'm afraid sometimes we are very sympathetic to victims of crime. But on this one, just like other sophisticated international crime and organized crimes, we'll also be very harsh with the victims of crime. Because we cannot have you, we cannot look kindly as you waste yourself and as you destroy yourself. Your Excellency, I agree county governments should use the fees that they collect from licensing alcoholic outlets to mitigate against addiction and to rehabilitate and reintegrate those that are affected. There is no reason collecting that kind of money, that kind of revenue, and using it to build roads. It doesn't work very well because you are trying to sanitize that revenue which you get from the control of trade in alcoholic substances. Please, let's use it for rehabilitation and reintegration. Therefore, going forward, between the National Police Service and the Director of Public Prosecutions, we must find ways of enforcing the ancillary orders of destruction of drugs and substances, forfeiture of vehicles, and the confiscation of and forfeiture of buildings where drugs and illicit alcohol is stored. And so, Your Excellency, I don't want to belabor so much. This is a national crisis. Just like terrorism and other serious crimes, we must act and act fast. We will not wait for the law to be amended. We'll apply what is there now. And all the other discussions about legality, legitimacy, we can have them when we have saved the nation. I now want to end there and request my colleagues to weigh in a sentence or two on the aspects that touch on their mandates. And then we can go to the last part, which is the plenary, and we close this meeting in good time. In no particular order, I want to ask my sister, the Cabinet Secretary for Health, to make a few remarks. And so that I don't come back here, she'll be followed by the Cabinet Secretary for Education, 2 minutes, the Cabinet Secretary for Gender and Affirmative Action, 2 minutes, the Cabinet Secretary for Mining and the Blue Economy, 2 minutes, and after that, PS, you will organize the plenary. Thank you very much, and God bless our country.